Hey folks, Papa Boris here, playing some more Altered, the trading card game. Let's grab Ordis, which some people say is the strongest, and they might be correct. I do feel like of the 4 decks that I like, just from a fun factor, this is like the least interesting. Because you're like falling behind, which feels bad, and a lot of it is just to play a bunch of things. So I don't know. I don't like it as much, but it's still fun. It's still definitely one that I enjoy. Okay, so what are we doing here? This is a tough opening hand. I mean, I think you keep Rat and Frog Prince, right? But we don't have our landmark. We have Charge with Joan, but it's a bit premature to keep that. And then we have the unfortunately rare version of Kokoba, but without that landmark that generates a token, this is going to be pretty hard to activate. We get 1 token from our hero, but we need 2 other characters. It's going to be rough. I think I'm going to get rid of Joan, Charge, and the removal because I just want to play these 2 on turn 1. And then I'm just hoping I get that 2-drop that comes with a token. So when I have 5 mana, I can play it and Kokoba for a good turn 3. All right, so my opponent used Ysmir's power. We're just going to keep this really simple. We're just going to play a 1/1 in the other lane. And then depending on what Ysmir does, we'll drop Frog Prince. This is an awkward turn 1 play because it doesn't have Desert, so it doesn't stop the opponent from moving. It just makes it more likely that you move. So a possible outcome is that I move twice and my opponent moves once in one of the same lanes where I moved. Of course, there is a way that she could counter that, but okay, she played Baba Yaga. This is a really good turn 1 play, honestly, because you draw a card and you're likely to get to move. Unluckily for my opponent, Baba Yaga doesn't have Desert, and Desert was what she needed to move against Mr. Frog Prince. So this is a good start for me. My opponent is a card ahead, but I am 2 spaces ahead, and it's not wrong. I think I would have done the exact same thing in my opponent's shoes, because Baba Yaga, if you can get a card with it and move with it on turn 1, is just so strong. I think it's a perfectly fine opening for both factions. I don't have a landmark going here, so maybe if I draw the landmark, I could play it on turn 2, taking advantage of the fact that I start off with 2 spaces. Okay, I didn't draw it. We got another one of these. We're just going to get rid of it. Hand cost of 4 or more. It's really finicky. We're just going to pass. So now it's awkward. I have no... Well, I could spend 4 mana. Oh, it's actually fine. Oh my god, it's not awkward at all. I could just play this, and I don't fill up my reserve, and I spent 4 mana. Okay, well, that's easy enough. So what I'm going to do here is just make the obvious play. I'm going to put the Frog Prince... Oh, hold on a second. I got to think about this. If I put the Frog Prince here, it's obvious because the Frog Prince has water and forest, and I need water and forest to move. Obvious, right? Well, my opponent could just play anything here and then move off of the desert, and then I'm making it less likely that I win this lane because I'm only putting 2 stats into it. I think I'm actually still going to do it, though. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make my opponent wonder. Like, my opponent might have awkwardness because, you know, Ysmir is all about spells. I think if you play Ysmir, you got to keep your spells and play fewer creatures. Okay, so my opponent's getting rid of my rat and getting something into their reserve. Perfectly fair play. I would have played the exact same thing. They've got the rare version of Dorothy. This is actually something I'm totally fine with because Ordis is going to be spread out. I'm not worried about playing like 4 mana creatures that Dorothy's going to get rid of. Okay, so now we just make the obvious play here. And basically what my opponent wants is a 2-drop that has 2 desert, and they can move in this lane. But I still move in both lanes, so I'm perfectly content to be 3 steps ahead. And only basically 1 card behind from Baba Yaga. Okay, what do you have? Oh, you had this. Okay, that's a pretty cool thing. I haven't actually seen this card. So Defender means that the expedition can't advance. It's a way of blocking your opponent from moving while guaranteeing that you don't move. Perfectly valid play on my opponent's part, but they are throwing away one of their extra cards. I'm guessing they're going to throw away, yep, Baba Yaga, because it's just a 2/1/2 for 2. So card-wise, my opponent is ahead by a couple, actually, but because they got one from Spycraft while getting rid of one of mine in exchange for Spycraft itself being fleeting. And now, oh, this is awkward. What do I throw away for mana? This is all stuff I'd kind of like to keep. So, unfortunately, I still cannot draw that thing that costs 2 mana and make a token, so Kokoba is not online. Which means this turn I'm doing what? Playing this, and that for 5? I mean, it's possible. I would have to get rid of Kokoba to do this. I'm going to do it. I think there comes a certain point where, yes, it's the rare card. Yes, it's very strong. But I think keeping it around just because it's strong is going to be a mistake. Okay, I'm going to make the obvious play here. We're just going to pay 1 to essentially pass it back to my opponent and see how they want to commit their mana. I am 3 steps ahead. My opponent, amazingly, has still not moved. I think they're in a fine position. They're generating card advantage, or they're playing the control game. It's how you play. Baba Yaga, interesting move here. So they're generating more card advantage, but they now really are kind of falling behind. I'm going to make the obvious play here. Okay, I guess it's actually not that obvious. What is happening here? If I play Frog Prince here, it just totally kills Baba Yaga. Okay, I'm going to put my face-up card here so my opponent doesn't know I still have a Frog Prince. And so now my opponent has 2 mana to work with. They could use their Defender card here to stop me from moving there. That's perfectly valid. So basically, the Frog Prince here does nothing as I move off of Desert, so we drop it here. This stops my opponent from moving while allowing me to move. And I move once to my opponent's 0 times. Okay, so getting a little perilous here with the card situation. My opponent still has a fistful of cards and a full reserve. I just have a full reserve and no cards, and I never got any of my landmarks. That being said, I'm so far ahead that at this point in the game, I actually could just play a landmark. Oh, Christ, I just cannot draw. And of course, I drew this dumb guy right after I threw away my Kakoba. Both of these are spells or things that are just not that good, but they're good in combination with other things, and I don't have those things. I could just play this, honestly. Kraken's Wrath would counter it. Mostly it would get rid of 3 of the tokens. I could keep this and hope I draw another one of my Kakobas. I could just, like, not put a mana. I could just not discard a card, play this to pile drive a lane and hope I move in it. It's a weird line. It's only 4/4 stats for 5 mana, which isn't even that good. I think I'm just going to sell this off. It's a weird line, but basically I'm just hoping that I can squeak out a move. And I'll just play this here and contest it. And we're going to just kind of see where the chips fall. You know, maybe my opponent drops some really good stuff and it's not even worth playing these. Then I just keep them and maybe draw another Kakoba. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so we're losing the Frog Prince to Spycraft. That was perhaps a reason to play the Frog Prince first. My opponent got this, which is very strong. So the question is this worth playing right now? God, I wish I had drawn a landmark. I have literally not drawn a landmark the whole game. It's very upsetting. So I could play this for a 2/2/1, essentially. I still could play it from reserve next time. Yeah, I mean, I've got to just play it, right? So it has no water. I might as well play it here, where at least I'm not stopping my opponent from moving, but I'm helping myself move more. And then my opponent's got 4 mana to generate 3 desert. That's pretty easy. They could actually do it with their face-up cards to stop me from moving, and they would also move themselves. They chose to play from hand. That's interesting. I don't know why they did that. Oh, maybe because they want to play the Stargazer here. Stop me from moving and move themselves. Oh, that's perfectly valid. Okay, so my opponent moves in both places. Stops me from moving in both places. And they still have a lot of card advantage. All right, I'm a little concerned here. So I'm 2 spaces ahead, but cards are a big problem. I never got my landmark, so I'm not generating any value. I've lost some of my breathing room because I'm only 2 spaces ahead now. Still haven't drawn a single landmark. Still got this thing. Send to reserve target character with hand cost 4 or more. I mean, I could throw away Dorothy. That's not even that good. Okay, we're going to get rid of the sticky note seals. I just don't think I need them. I think if I do draw some cards later, then maybe later I can pass on mana. But passing on mana now, when I have a card that's junk and I'm probably not going to play, seems pointless. Okay, so my opponent passes. This is fine. What I'm going to do here is just drop my Spy. And we're going to get rid of their cheaper card that has good stats and make them show me some of their cards from hand. They do have 7 mana to work with. They do have Dorothy, which they could just play on even this, though it's kind of a weak move, just to get a lane to move. Or they have to show me their hand cards and move with them. So they're going to commit Dorothy, which makes a lot of sense. Very sensible play. It's face up, so it keeps their information hidden. And now I have to decide, like, am I going to play this to try to shore up this lane or pass? Well, I think I'm just going to play this here. I mean, I might as well make them prove to me that they can beat 3 desert and win a lane with 2 mana. Okay, so they pass. That's fine. So they have some significant card advantage against me, but I'm only 2 spaces away from winning, and I might be able to do it if I get the right stuff. At this point, I think the landmarks might be a bit too slow, but oh, yes, there we go. So whenever a character, they get a +1 boost. Now we have Kakoba. Interesting. So I could, like, play this and this next turn. Oh, man. I'm going to pass. I'm not going to do anything. I am going to play this, and I'm going to hope to win next turn. It's going to be my plan. It is freaky, but it's what I'm going to go for. So my opponent needs to spend 2 cards to move in both lanes. We are then going to be equal distance from each other in terms of how many moves it takes to win. Like, both of us will need 2 more things to win. And I'm actually not going to play this. It's risky because my opponent could have yet another Spycraft or a Tooth Fairy to sabotage it away. But I want to make sure I keep it so I can turn on Kakoba really easily. Oh, it's risky because they could either play it now like a Tooth Fairy and get rid of it, which would be heartbreaking, or you know what? I have to play this. The more I think about it, the more I just need to play this thing. I can't risk them having a Tooth Fairy or another Sabotage. It's good value because of this landmark. It puts on a lot of stats. Yes, it's in the wrong stat. It's water. But I just need to play it to contest this and just hope that I draw something next turn that will let me turn on Kakoba. I mean, I'm going to have 4 mana to work with to get Kakoba turned on. So hopefully it'll just work. Okay, so I made my opponent throw out a Kraken's Wrath. This is actually okay because it is the end of their turn, and it means they're only moving in 1 lane, not in 2. Like, I would have been okay with them moving in 2 lanes, but they're now only moving in 1, which is fine. So they're at 3 cards to my 1, but I do have, I mean, I'm ignoring that, right? They're at 3 cards to my 2 cards, essentially. This card being a permanent rather than a character, and this is giving me some value. It means that my starting token is a 2/2. I got the Ordis Carrier. God darn it. Okay. Well, luckily we got this, which does turn Kakoba on. I cannot play all 3 of these, and I'm definitely not playing this in place of either of my characters. So we're going to throw this away for mana because it's just never getting played. Would have loved that 5 turns ago. Game. But okay, I have a chance. I have a chance to win. It's not impossible to win. I'm going to play this. I don't know in which lane yet. It's going to generate a bunch of stats because of the tokens. And then my opponent could make like a hero play of Off You Go to get rid of any of my characters and turn Kakoba off. I could be wrong. Maybe my opponent's a genius, but I feel like at this stage of the game's existence, people aren't going to be making moves like that. Like, oh, what if my opponent has Kakoba? You know, I better play around it. More likely, they could just keep the Off You Go for Kakoba if he drops. So yes, I think it's going to be this, where I play the Ordis Gatekeeper, and then it's just a matter of, did my opponent keep removal for Kakoba when it drops? Even if they did, this is a lot of stats. I guess it kind of sucks because I need forest and water to move, and this thing's strength is neither of those. But maybe I put it here. It still bumps me up to 4 forest. The big desert makes it harder for my opponent to move. I get a 2/2 in the other lane, and then I have Kakoba. So my opponent will still have to get rid of Kakoba, do something in this lane to beat my 2/2 token, and then do something over here to beat my 4 forest. So it's a chance. I think I'd still give the advantage to my opponent here. Like, if I had to bet money on who's more likely to win the game, I do think it's my opponent, but I have a chance. Definitely, it's not impossible. Okay, so they thought for a long time, then remembered to click their hero power. So we're going to drop that there. Yeah, it makes sense, right? If we only care about water here, like the desert doesn't matter, so I might as well put it somewhere where the desert actually matters. And now my opponent goes into another think. Kraken's Wrath would actually be really strong here, like a second Kraken's Wrath. It would wipe my board. And then I would have nothing, and they could just play Alice. It's 4 mana left over. They could even win both lanes in that case. So yeah, my opponent's doing a pretty strong job. I mean, I gotta play what I gotta play, right? I'm gonna play Kakoba. Kraken's Wrath would get rid of Kakoba and both tokens, but it would not get rid of the Ordis Gatekeeper. It's up to 5 maximum mana hand cost, so they can get rid of the Gatekeeper or the Commander, but not both. And that's really significant because Vanishing Gate. Oh, are they going to get rid of my permanent? They are. That's fine. Okay, so I paid 5. They paid 4. I am fine with that. They need to do something for me to not win the game now. Is it going to be an off you go? It is a beauty sleep. I forgot about beauty sleep. Okay, so that's actually fine. I'm okay with this. I'm actually okay with this because it means the Kakoba sits on the board. He's a big 5/5. He just sits here. My opponent does move because water, the one stat they're good on, is the one stat that was relevant, so that was kind of tragic. But Alice is off the table. My opponent's down to just 1 card. Kakoba's sitting here. They have to spend 3 energy to beauty sleep away the Kakoba. And I got to think about what to do. So, okay, I could actually play another one of these. I would have 3 left over, but tragically, that's not enough to play both of these gatekeepers. Well, okay, so do I want to play both gatekeepers, or do I want to play this and one of them? That's actually a very curious question. Desert, I want to play both of them. I want to play both gatekeepers here, because look at this situation. My opponent needs desert to move. Yeah, all right, I am going to discard that for mana in case this game goes another round. But my opponent is going to have a tough time. Really important here, you need to play your reserve card first, because a Tooth Fairy here, blowing this out of my reserve would be cataclysmic. Now my opponent has a lot of work to do. They need to spend 3 energy Beauty Sleep and Kakoba, unless one of their 2 cards is another Beauty Sleep, but then they only have 1 other card left. My opponent ran out of cards. That's the crucial thing. My opponent just completely ran out. Okay, so they are going to actually have a control turn here where they get to off you go, my thing, and then they have so much mana because this game went so long, I'm going to replay it, but they can do it again. So they actually get a lot of mileage out of the fact that spells go into the reserve. But still, both of these spells would be 7 of their 8 mana. That would not leave them with enough in 1 card and 1 mana to beat my tokens. Remember, they have to stop me from moving in both places in order for the game not to end. So they're going to play Dorothy, which I'm completely fine with, because now the situation is this. Oh gosh. I don't know if my opponent misplayed. I think they misplayed, right? It's because it's such a natural mistake. Altered is just such a beautiful game because it's so different from other TCGs. In every other trading card game you can imagine, if you remove something, it's gone. But this just went to the reserve and I can just replay it. So yeah, I'll just replay it here. What my opponent needed to do was play Beauty Sleep on my Ordis Gatekeeper first, or on Kakoba, have me pass, because my turn is, because I had nothing else to do, right? I played everything. I would have passed. Then they could have played Dorothy and it wouldn't have been answered. Now, I would have to investigate this closely, but I believe I still would have won. Actually, no. Okay, so imagine if they Beauty Slept Kakoba last turn. I have nothing to do because I'm out of cards. I pass, and then they Dorothy the Gatekeeper. No, because no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because this token, right? They have to get rid of this token. I guess they could have Dorothy'd here, but then there would have been these tokens. Yeah, no, they didn't have enough. I was gonna win off of my tokens regardless. All right, wow, that was exciting. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe. Big hats off to my opponent, Pitil Porco, who I believe played Ysmir very well. And just judging by what they did and my own current thinking about Ysmir, I don't think I would have done anything differently than them. So that is kind of discouraging in my ongoing quest to prove that Ysmir is at least as good as the big 3 factions, because I had a horrible draw. I mean, just bad. And I think I made some bad plays. So the fact that I still won, despite just getting the worst draw imaginable, is a sign that maybe Ysmir is weak. Well, we'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.